There's a specific kind of weight that comes with being self-aware, and it's not talked about very often. It's the weight that comes when you've done the reading, you understand your patterns, you know your attachment style, you can trace your reactions back to childhood, and yet you still find yourself feeling stuck. Not confused, not unconscious, just tired. Tired of carrying yourself. Tired of monitoring yourself. Tired of watching yourself react and thinking, I know where this comes from. There's a unique exhaustion that comes with that. And I want to talk about it. A lot of people who find my work are not beginners. You're not new to inner work. You're not new to reflection. You're not new to therapy language. You're often the person who understands everyone else, holds space for others, sees patterns quickly, and takes responsibility for your inner world. You're the one people lean on. And because of that, you often end up carrying a lot quietly. Not in a dramatic way, not in a chaotic way, in a competent way. And that's part of the problem. Because when you're competent, people assume you're fine. And when you're self-aware, you often assume you should be fine. At some point, self-awareness can start to feel less like freedom and more like weight, because you're always watching yourself, always tracking yourself, always regulating yourself. You notice your triggers, you notice your defenses, you notice when you're pulling away, you notice when you're people-pleasing, you notice when you're dissociating, you notice when you're bracing. And that level of awareness, without support, can become heavy. Not empowering, heavy. Here's the piece that often gets missed. Most of our patterns did not form in isolation. They formed in relationship, through attunement, through inconsistency, through emotional absence, through unpredictability, through having to adapt. So it makes sense that insight alone doesn't always resolve them. Because you're trying to heal in private something that was shaped in connection. That's not wrong. It's just incomplete. A lot of emotionally intelligent people are trying to do relational healing alone. And again, that's not a flaw. That's not weakness. That's coherence. Because if you learn to be self-contained early, you're probably very good at being self-contained now. You know how to self-soothe. You know how to self-reflect. And you know how to self-regulate. But self-regulation is not the same as being regulated with. And that's a subtle but important difference. There's a nervous system truth here. We don't just change through understanding. We change through experience. through being met differently, through being seen differently, through being responded to differently. And you can't give yourself that experience in the same way another person can. No matter how aware you are, no matter how reflective you are, no matter how much work you've done, there are things that only shift when someone else is present. Not fixing you, not analyzing you, not advising you, just being with you. If you're watching this and thinking, yes, that's me. If self-awareness has started to feel heavy, if insight has started to feel lonely, if you're tired of holding everything by yourself, I want you to know that doesn't mean you're failing. It doesn't mean you're broken. It doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. It usually means you've reached the edge of what can be done alone. And that's not a weakness. That's a threshold. There is a difference between I understand myself and I feel supported. A big difference. And a lot of people confuse the two. You can be incredibly self-aware and still deeply alone in your inner world. You can understand your patterns and still feel unseen. You can name your wounds and still be carrying them without anyone else holding them with you. This is especially true for people who are naturally attuned. If you're the one who notices shifts in energy, who feels when something is off, who senses what others need, you probably learned early how to orient outward. And that makes you very good at understanding others. But it can quietly train you to minimize your own needs, to carry yourself, to not burden, to be fine. And over time, that gets heavy. So, if self-awareness has started to feel like weight instead of freedom, that's not a problem to fix. That's a signal. A signal that you may be ready for a different kind of support. Not more information, not more insight, not another book, but presence, relational space, co-regulation. And that's actually where the real shifts tend to happen. Not in your head, not in your analysis, but in your experience, in being met, in being witnessed, in being held in your process. If this resonates, I offer a free 15-minute clarity call. It's not a sales call. It's not a pitch. It's just space. Space to talk through what you're noticing. Space to name what feels heavy. Space to explore what kind of support might actually help. You can book that in the link below. And whether you book or not, I want you to hear this. You're not meant to do all of this alone. Even if you're capable, even if you're strong, even if you're self-aware, especially then.